Boaters, this is Pauly from All Docked Up, and never have a podcast without my main man, Captain Buzz.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How you doing out
Buzzword, how you doing? We are sitting, everybody, just to let you know, we are sitting live in St. Michael's at St. Michaels Marina, bringing this podcast to you while Captain Buzz is on his vacation that I am ruining at the moment.
Not at all. Yeah, we're on a week-long journey. So we're sitting on the back in the cockpit. So if you hear some hoses or some chatter, it's a busy marina. A lot of boats coming and going. We've got probably a 76-foot.
Oh, we have a
2019 Viking.
Right we have a beautiful 70+ foot Viking right now. Captain, who was skippering the boat, is washing down the hull, taking care of the owner of the vessel, making sure that she stays nice and pretty and clean.
Getting fuel. It's fueling up. He's been fueling up for an hour.
I was going to say, I'm sure that a 70+ foot Viking is definitely taking, 1,500+ gallons to fill that big girl up.
So, you made a nice meal for our boater bites, right, for this week. You made a nice meal last week, but since we're down here at St. Michael's, we're not at our home studio. We went out to dinner last night, right?
Absolutely.
To limoncello.
Yes.
Oh, and it was good. I had the carpaccio, just thin sliced filet mignon, little salad greens and capers, and then we had I had a gnocchi with a marinara and basil and mozzarella cheese. Oh, and their signature limoncello martini, which is
the bomb.
Oh, man,
I will tell you what, that was incredible. I had to start a beautiful charcuterie board, a nice antipasta with a prosciutto di Parma, sliced nice and thin with some mixed roasted peppers and some fresh olives.
You did share some of that with me. I appreciate that.
I did share with you, and I'm not much. When I got something in front of me, and you knew how hungry I was because I was so excited, and I had a full busy day of washing down my customers' boats before I had to come down here to St. Michael's and meet Captain Buzz.
What'd you think of the carpaccio? Because you had a bite of that.
You know what? I will tell you what. I went on the edge last night. That is not something that I would traditionally eat. And the carpaccio was excellent. The taste was good. It was balanced, beautiful. So, guys, if you are in St. Michael's, and you're at St. Michael's Marina or any other location, make sure you go in town and hit up Limoncello.
Yeah, it's a good place. We've gone there for a number of years.
Buzzy, talk to me. All right. I'm excited. I'm live. We're here. It's beautiful. It's not raining on our heads. What do we have for our captain's briefing?
Okay, so it's very simple. Is to check your fluids, and that's before you leave. And we made a very long run, and we'll get into some of the details of the run we've been on this week. But it was an 8-hour run because of the weather. And so I checked fluids before we left.
So let's dive into that. Okay. Let's get in that, and let's be a little bit specific here, Buzz.
Sure.
So, Cap, when you were going through your checklist and you were going to shove off and head to your port of call for the weekend, what exactly did you check?
So I'm checking everything from fuel to engine oil, generator oil, transmission oil. Just make sure that all those fluids are good and topped off. I'm also checking the holding tank and our water tank. Make sure
seeing what you have on board.
Correct.
But primarily from the engines, you want to make sure that you check your oils, make sure that you're solid on that, because 15 minutes worth of extra work before you leave the dock could save you $15,000+ on a major mechanical failure.
It's a simple thing, and it's important. But the other thing, on the other end of the trip, when we got there, I opened up the hatch just to do a visual inspection, make sure everything was, because it was an 8-hour run.
It was an 8-hour run. I do that religiously. When I go to get the boat fired up and I got those blowers turned on, guys, don't ever forget the blowers must be on for 5 to 10 minutes prior to you starting that boat. Lift up my engine hatch. I check my oils. I check the surrounding, make sure that I had a hose that didn't blow or that's something that's leaking from the previous run. Take the time, guys. All the new boaters that are out there, pre-existing, novice, or well-seasoned, don't be scared to lift that hatch. I don't care what you have to do. Get in that engine room before you leave, your marina and you're heading to your destination, for the weekend.
So before we get into that, the cruise details, what's the detailer's briefing?
Well, the detailer's briefing is this. I see a lot of boaters that are out there and they're washing their boats. They're getting stuff cleaned up for the weekend, but they're not taking the time to dry off the boat.
Oh.
They physically do not have like a shore hold brush with the chamois attachment on the end. And based off of where you wash your boat, a lot of marinas are wells. It's not public water and sewer unless you're at a location like the Inner Harbor in Baltimore and you're not hooked up to city, public water. But when you go ahead and you do that and you wash down the boat, the sun dries the actual water off, but all the sediment or the minerals that are in the water are now glued to your boat. You got water spots all over the place. So take the time to grab yourself your traditional chamois, which works just fine, that you would use on your automotive side. Make sure that, and most of the brushes that you're using to wash your boat, the heads disconnect and you're able to interchange the accessories that you have.
Yeah, one pole
with multiple accessories. And you can get them with boat hooks, along with your chamois mop, along with your style brushes, whether it's non-skid or it's ultra soft. You want to make sure you're not scratching, using the right brushes. But when you're done that boat, grab your chamois mop and hit it and dry it all nice off. And then you have no material left, no sediment, no minerals from the water, from the hard water you washed your boat.
Roger that. That sounds good.
So you had, an awesome time. You're on vacation. You left last Saturday. I have to say that you definitely picked a challenging day to leave Chesapeake City to head down, to Solomon's. What marina did you stay at Solomon's?
Well, we stayed at Spring Cove Marina,
which is one of your faves for you and your wife.
Nice place, a beautiful ship store, a nice pool with a little tiki bar, nice people, and within, and it's definitely a place to get your steps in because it's, as far as where all the restaurants are downtown, it's a little bit of a walk, but it's good for you. We went for a nice little walk, a couple different restaurants. But yeah, when we shoved off, the weather wasn't.
Yeah, tell our listeners. Well, the storm that you left in. Okay.
It was definitely raining when we left, and it rained almost the entire journey.
And you shoved off at first light, which is habitual for you.
When we're getting ready to shove off for a vacation like that, and we're on board for a week, I'd like to get an early start. And so I cruise slow at first. It's because we're having breakfast.
You're having brecco, right? Your wife's making breakfast.
You're
at the helm. You're manning the helm. You got coffee coming. How you doing?
And we got to Turkey Point, and even just a little bit beyond, by the mouth of the Sassafras, things really kicked up.
It started to get real snotty.
Yeah, it did.
What kind of winds were you experiencing? What kind of waves were you experiencing?
Well, to put it this way, we were in a Sea Ray 420, and I was running about 11 knots, and torpedoed the bow into at least one wave that came over the top.
Shocker! Okay. You had the bell ringing on that one.
It wasn't. Yeah, but the thing is, I've gained a little bit more confidence at the helm, but she ran well. I mean, and I gave it.
Well, your girl's powered by twin Cummins Diamond Series diesel, and you have 418 horsepower aside, correct?
That's right. And I gave a little more throttle, and it actually made the ride better.
And why is that? Because you told me that you tabbed down, you bowed down.
I did. It was bowed down. And I put it up to about 15 or 16 knots, and we had a following sea, which was wonderful.
Pushed
us all the way down.
If you had an opposing sea,
it would have been a lot more slapping going on. So it was actually a pleasant ride, but it was a long day on the water.
Oh, I'm sure it was. But the one thing I will say is this: with you being a certified captain from the Coast Guard, you have the experience underneath your belt to be able to successfully, navigate that journey and doing it well because of the experience. So guys, as much as we're talking about Captain Buzz leaving for vacation and did not have the fear and has the skill set to go out there and navigate through that, make sure that you have that experience underneath your belt before you decide to do that.
Well, and that's a great point, Pauly, but also don't be afraid to go outside your comfort zone a little bit.
Because that's how you learn.
As long as you're prepared.
As long as you were prepared.
Right. So what you got an email Saturday, and it was our float plan, wasn't it?
Yes, I did have a float plan. Captain Buzz sent me his float plan on what his agenda was and where his ports of call were that weekend. And he was traveling for a 7-day vacation. So when you are leaving for a 7-day vacation, boaters, make sure that you have a float plan listed, and your friends and family know where you're going, when you should be there, because in case of a problem, you have a general idea pretty much exactly where you are going to be, where your location is going to be if there's a problem.
That's right. And there's information about the boat, who's on board, the provisions and safety equipment that you have on board. And so all of that information is in there. And if you don't check in at the end of the journey, and God forbid there has to be some type of a search, they've got everything, including the picture of the boat.
Right. They got a full, they have your entire plan of attack,
That's
where
right.
you were going and what you were doing that week.
That's right. Let's talk a little bit about Solomon's as a destination, because there's a really special place down there. It's called the Calvert Maritime Museum.
Okay.
And that's a couple hundred yards away from Spring Cove, walking distance.
Okay.
There's also a concert pavilion, and they have some pretty big acts there sometimes. But obviously, COVID coming to an end, maybe they'll get back into it. But this is a wonderful maritime museum. They've got a Chesapeake Bay lighthouse, a beautiful example right there on the dock for folks to tour. They've got a bug eye that they take people out on a river cruise. They've got a skipjack that they take people out on. Really spectacular. And they also have otters in a
Nice.
tank. Yeah. And there's three of them. It's Chumley, Chessie, and Calvert. And if you get there, if you happen to be
The
there,
three little guys.
yeah, and around 1:00 it's feeding time.
I'm sure that's a spectacle.
Oh man, and they're fun to watch, man, because they can eat some fish.
I'm sure they
So
can.
they're handling. There's a plexiglass.
So they're like a Pauly. They have no problems eating. You know me. I mean, when I'm hungry, get out of the way.
You step right up, and you can see them getting fed. So that's a nice treat. The museum also has a huge section on the fossil remains that have been found on the Calvert Cliffs, in
Okay.
Calvert County, right on the bay. And so they've got a megalodon jaw, which is like 3 feet in diameter, and
Which a
teeth.
megalodon was the largest species of shark.
That's right. Monstrous. It's cool. It's
Scary.
Really cool. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, swallow up my 30-footer with me on it at one swoop.
They've got some great, maritime history as far as the oyster business, the shipping, the ferry boats back and forth. It's a really
So if you're into maritime history,
check
that's
it.
definitely a place that you want to stop and enjoy.
yeah, they've got a boat. They've got a boatwright shop. They're building a boat. They've got a small boat shop, model boats. Yeah, it's a really, really great museum. I highly recommend it.
So you went ahead and you left Solomon's and you left your location and you went to Deal, Maryland, to Haven Harbor South.
Actually,
I'm sorry, Haven Harbor North.
It's called Harrington.
Harrington Harbor. I'm sorry. I always
no.
get that confused with Rock Hall.
Yeah, exactly. I do too sometimes. Yeah, Harrington Harbor North is the largest marina I've ever been in.
You were impressed though, because I know that you are one OCD son of a bitch, and I'll tell you what, I know that
It doesn't make me a bad guy.
Not at all. It makes you an awesome guy, but it just you can appreciate when you pull up to a marina
They're
and you
buttoned up.
see that they are buttoned up the right way.
They have 2 areas where they can run 3 travel lifts simultaneously. That's how big this place is.
Yeah, they're pulling boats in and out, launching and retrieving all day long.
This place is so big. They have a West Marine on site. Weaver Boat Works is on site.
That's awesome.
Countless other service providers for rigging and engine work and generator work and fiberglass work and general boat maintenance. It's a heck of a boatyard. It's if you're going to go to a resort marina like that, the restrooms are perfect. They're beautiful. They are really spectacular.
There's nothing better than when you are spending a weekend at a marina outside of your own. You're on a weekend getaway with your wife, your children, whatever the case may be. Maybe the Gumata. What are you going to do? But the marina's buttoned up. It's nice and tight. Everything's beautiful, up to date, and it's an enjoyable place. So the money that you spend to be there, you don't mind because you are getting everything you want.
It's really nice. And so then, there are a lot of great restaurants. There's a restaurant, and it's almost on property. I mean, you're walking across the parking lot. It's called the Dockside, and but the best crab dip I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm sure you've had crab dip before, with a piece of bread, and it's kind of.
I'm Pauly. I've eaten everything under the sun. I mean, what are you gonna do?
It's got crab and it's got cream cheese and maybe a crust on top and a cruet, and you dip in your bread. It's wonderful. This is the only one I've ever seen where they put jumbo lump on top and then melt the cheese on top of that,
Which is even better.
Oh,
sounds beautiful.
Really,
I love crab meat, and there's nothing better than enjoying. I've had crab cakes that were all filler and very little crab cake, and then Paulie gets a little upset because I'm the Italian guy, and I'm like, yo, I'm a fat guy, I got to eat, I'm hungry, and you go ahead and you serve me this thing with all this filler, and I'm ready to whiz it at you with like a frisbee.
In addition to the dockside, Harrington Harbor North is a great place to have a dinghy.
I was going to say that. Don't forget that. Yeah, you said that if you were there, you want to make sure that you have a dinghy so you can fully navigate through the creeks and actually get to all the different attractions.
That's right. So we took the dinghy, we fired up the dinghy and went up the creek to a place called the Boathouse, which is it's an old working boat. Picture a boat up on the hard, right?
Okay.
And they built a deck around it. Okay, that's the bar, and then a roof over it, so it's like a boat shed, and then the bartenders are standing inside the boat. You're up against the gunnel, right?
Yeah, you're up against the top of the bulwarks, and that's what you're leaning against, and
you're sitting on a stanchion for a boat being on.
That's awesome.
That's the bar stool, and we happened to get there, and there was a car show in the parking lot. So we pulled up in the day, and the place was it was a Wednesday night, and it was jumping. I mean, there had to be 100 people there. They've got old outboards hanging from the ceiling, but it's all open, right? And they've got a nice little menu and a terrific bar staff. They really know how to make some cocktails. It was a fun afternoon.
And we do enjoy our cocktails when we are safely anchored or we are safely tied up in a transient slip.
Absolutely.
We're no drinking and driving boats, guys.
So from there, we made our way to St. Michael's, which is where we're sitting right now.
Which is where we are sitting right now. And it has turned out to be a gorgeous day.
It is. I think we may have some weather coming in this afternoon.
Later on this afternoon, I do believe that we have some significant weather coming through the door. But it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the experience.
There's also a very first-class maritime museum here, the Chesapeake Maritime Museum.
Oh, absolutely. Love it. Been there multiple times.
Yeah, they have some really great displays. They've also got a skipjack over there. They have a huge shipwright shop. They're always building something, a replica of an older boat or fixing one up. They've got a nice marine store. A history of, again, the boating industry on the Chesapeake Bay, some really great displays. So recommend that one too. And they also have a Chesapeake Bay lighthouse that you can tour and go up inside.
I love stuff like that. Cool. I love seeing the history, of the maritime industry based off the location that you're at. I love it.
So I know you'll appreciate, because when we were here yesterday, and you came down, there was the largest catamaran I've ever seen.
That was a woolly mammoth of catamarans. Guys, boaters, hear me. 85 feet long with a 40-foot beam. This thing, and it was crewed by 4. It was a paid weekly charter that they do, and I was blown out of the water.
Called the Wind Quest, and it had 3,400 square feet of living space on a boat. That's
powered, that size vessel powered by, one of the crewmates told me it was powered by twin 380 horsepower Yanmar diesels, but it was also full sailed mast. So you could either run, obviously run under power, or you can physically sail, because I thought that the motors themselves are underpowered. And he says, Paulie, to be honest with you, we primarily are under sail when we're running.
Sure.
And it was gorgeous. What a gorgeous piece. Guys, he was in right next to St. Michaels Marina. He went to go ahead and pivot because he was on the other side of the Cove. And I'm like, is he going to fit that through? And you hear the roar of that diesel, that crabbing boat that just pulled in. Guys, that's what you're hearing right now. It's freaking awesome. I love it. I love it. But I sent pictures and a video to Captain Jeff, the other owner of All Docked Up, and he was like, "That's the biggest thing I've ever seen."
It was gargantuan. So one of the unique things about St. Michael's, if you've never been there, at least and at the St. Michael's Marina, because you said, what's with all the British flags? What's with all the Union?
Yeah, we got
jacks?"
British flags all over the place. I'm like, I see American flags and British flags, but I don't see no Italian flags. What's up with that?
So they were originally displayed by the Marina after the Gulf War for the support, that the British gave, and
Sure.
as an ally in that conflict, but then they left them up because of the history of St. Michael's, and so the War of 1812, the British attacked by water, and they're just kind of up and down the bay attacking cities. What the residents did, because it was at night, they extinguished all the lights in all the homes, and they put lights in the trees, a few hundred yards up the shoreline, and that's what the British were bombing. And they're hitting the trees.
They were hitting the trees, right? They didn't take out the actual town.
Yeah, exactly. So when you come to St. Michael's and you're by the Cove, there's a couple of placards that explains the story. But just thought you'd like to know about the Union Jacks here in St. Michael's.
I'll tell you what, I know you're a big history buff. I know you enjoy it, and so do I. But I was just so curious. Like, I see all these British flags. I'm like, well, what do we got going on here, guys? I'm like, I'm in Maryland. I'm like, I'm not understanding what's happening here. Oh, I'll tell you what a beautiful day. And it was a shame that, Memorial Day weekend was such a rain out this year. It was bad.
Yeah, that's when we left. It was Saturday before Memorial Day, and it was
the video that you sent me when you were halfway down. So mind you guys, an actual a tour like that from Chesapeake City down to Solomon's, running roughly 18 to 22 knots, you can get that done in roughly 5 hours.
Yeah, if I was running hard the whole time.
If you were running
absolutely.
if you were running at your 2200 Rs and you were running your traditional speed,
yep.
And how long did it take?
It was 8 hours at the helm. I was exhausted.
So you got there, and I have to admit, I would have to imagine that you got there, had a snack, and you had to have collapsed.
I rallied. No, I hung in.
You rallied?
I hung in, yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
I was excited to be down there and enjoying ourselves. First day of vacation, and I rallied.
Oh,
I slept great that night.
Oh, I'm sure you definitely slept good that night. I don't want to hear it.
And I was chugging water because I was just wicked. You stand at the helm, you're just getting...
Well, I'll tell you what, your core, when you're running and you're in rough seas, your body, you're doing everything under the sun to support yourself. You use a lot of muscles that you didn't think you had.
And here's maybe I should say this for another captain's briefing, but remember we changed my wiper blades?
Yes.
And I'll tell you what.
Thank God that you did.
Because it rained the entire way and rained hard. And so that they would sweep and not a streak. It means a lot for having visibility in weather like that. And then I had to keep a squeegee at the helm because we had we're running with the canvas up.
Right, which means that you were having your windows fogging up.
Started a little fog, so
that option wasn't available on your 420 to be able to
have
defog.
A fan. Yeah.
Well, to be able to so your system, you weren't able to defog the windows to get the defrosters on.
Correct. So I just had a hand squeegee and worked great.
Good.
Yeah,
sounds like a plan.
Worked great. So
the question is now you're here at St. Michael's for the rest of the weekend, mm-hmm. and you're shoving off when to head back to Chesapeake City?
Well, we'll be leaving on probably Sunday, probably about 11 o'clock.
Now, and what I'm sure what our listeners want to know, are there any troubled spots? Is there anything that you can share with somebody who wants to make that trip from Chesapeake City, heading south down the bay, mm-hmm. going to Solomon's? Is there anything that we can help them navigate?
The only tricky piece, if you're not used to it, is coming through Kent Narrows, because the current is very swift.
It's very strong.
Right. So you've got to wait your turn. Now we don't have to have the bridge open, so we can go through, but you still have to, you kind of wait your turn. Okay, who's coming through?
Right. You're talking about going through. Red Eyes is on your left, which is now Safe Harbor, and then Piney Narrows is on your right. Correct.
That's right.
Okay.
When you're heading north, or when you're coming south. But so we'll be going north through there. So the folks who have the right of way are the folks who are coming with the tide. Right?
Sure.
When you're bucking tide, it's a little easier to control. But when you're when you're coming with the tide, you're moving through there. The tide's moving.
It's moving very
5,
strong.
6 knots.
I'm sure. It's
and so
it's
they've
very
got to have the right of way, and you got to be careful coming through there. So that's the only troubled spot, I would say.
Go ahead
Other
and
than that.
pre-plan your trip.
Yep.
Okay. Grab your charts, grab your GPS, pre-plan your trip.
Float plan.
Put your float plan together. Make sure you understand. And guys, also to remember this, that even though that they update your local charts, even on your GPS models, I don't care which one that you have, even sometimes with your upgraded chips that you're downloading the new software onto your systems,
Right.
when you have really, really bad weather, there are times that a place that may show on a chart that you have 10 feet at low tide turns out to be 5. Just make sure you're vigilant and you're aware that when, things change, the landscape changes underneath you.
Well, and I love that tip when we had Captain Brandon on our podcast, and he said, if you're unfamiliar with an area,
Who's the number one person to call?
Call the towboat captain.
And why?
Because obviously they have local knowledge and they're happy to share it.
They're happy to share it. They have local knowledge, but we all know that a towboat captain that's working for Boat US knows the area
Absolutely.
like the back of his hand because he has to. He has no choice.
That's his job.
So don't be shy, boaters, to actually make the phone call to wherever you're navigating to get some local information.
All right. Well, I think we chewed up another almost 30 minutes.
You're ready to go grab another cocktail. That's what you're ready for, boaters. He's over here chomping at the bit because he's ready to go grab himself another cocktail.
Well,
Boot me off the boat, and he wants to go rock and roll.
Well, it's getting to be lunchtime. Doesn't make me a bad guy, as I said before.
It is going to be a
We're
lot
tied
of
up,
time.
so I can have a cocktail. I'm on vacation.
You're on vacation. You're not underway. You're safely into port. You're allowed to have a couple of cocktails.
Roger that.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, podcast live, St. Michael's, Buzzy, thank you for letting me come aboard
Yeah,
and
I'm glad you
crash
came
last
down.
night.
Yeah.
But that's what all Doc Dub does, everybody. We're going to travel all over the place to bring the best information to you and make your weekends, your boating trips safer, happier, healthier, and just fun. Spend the time with your loved ones and your family.
Roger that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Buzzy, standing by on 6-8, Cap.
Captain Buzz standing by on 6-8.
Guys, have yourselves a great afternoon.